Hello and welcome back to another video. Today it's going to be a simple one. I'm going to be making a beef ragu with some rustic pasta. I'm going to be using this cascarece pasta, I want to say. I don't exactly know the correct way to say it, but you can use any sort of pasta that will work for you. Like pappardelle is really good, or fettuccine, or a rigatoni. Anything that's going to hold up to a nice sort of heavy meat sauce. What I've got here is I've got 900 grams of just a cheaper cut of beef. As you can see there, normally that thing would be pretty subpar in most of the meals that you'd make. So you want to use this for something that you're going to cook low and slow to really let it fall apart. So a beef ragu is a really good application. Apart from that, we've got a couple of onions, a head of garlic, some tinned tomatoes. I really like the Mutti brand. A teaspoon or so of cracked black pepper. I've cracked it really rough so it's not too finely ground. I've got 1 tablespoon each of dried oregano and dried rosemary. Here I've got a teaspoon of La Chinata, hot smoked paprika. This adds a really great depth to the dish and sort of a really well-rounded spice and smokiness. I've got about 130 grams or so of tomato paste. This again is going to add a really nice depth. I've got 3 bay leaves in here, just dried ones. 1 cup of a homemade chicken stock. This was just from a leftover roast chicken, just boiled it down for a few hours. But store-bought's fine, beef stock is good too. And here I have about 4 tablespoons of a nice aged balsamic vinegar. And that's going to bring a little bit of acidity, a little bit of sweetness, and it's going to tie it all together really well. So let's get started, and I'm going to start off by cutting up my vegetables, seasoning my meat, searing it off, and then getting it all in the pressure cooker. Now, because I don't really want to be waiting around for hours, I'm going to be using the pressure cooker. But if you don't have one or you don't feel like doing it that way, you can also do it in a pot. Just sear it off all in the pot, then put it into the oven at about 170 for about 3 to 4 hours. Otherwise, it's going to be about 50 minutes or so in the pressure cooker. So that's up to you. I really recommend, if you don't have a pressure cooker, giving them a look, because it really makes a big difference in your day-to-day goings. So get started on that, and let's see this quick and simple recipe. Alright, so let's not waste any time. I'm just going to start off by dicing up my onions there and getting it all nice and ready for the meal. Now, this is by no means a traditional or authentic Italian recipe. It's just something that really I've kind of devised off the things I've cooked in the past and what I've got on hand to prepare a nice dinner. And sometimes that's what cooking can be about. The Italians may tell you to, I don't know, go to hell or whatever, but in the spirit of cooking, this is something that I think is quite good to do. So if you've got something similar on hand, most of the ingredients that I have here are what I would call sort of pantry staples when it comes to, like, your balsamic vinegars and your tinned tomatoes and your bay leaves. But perhaps if you don't have one of these things, you can always substitute it for something else. If you don't have, for example, a nice smoked paprika, just put in some chili flakes or something. It won't obviously do the same thing, but the idea here is that it's a pretty general purpose recipe, and if you follow some simple guidelines, you'll probably get a really delicious meal. Alright, so skins off the onions, clear those out. Now I'm just going to really simply and roughly slice this all up. So I'm just going to slice them across. Nothing too fancy. again, because this is going in the pressure cooker, it'll really sort of braise down into nothing at all. And I'm not looking for anything too perfect or too precise either in this recipe. Keeping it rustic, keeping it simple. Cool, so onions are cut up. Let's get our garlic prepared. So I'm just breaking it all off. To be honest, I'm going to use most of this garlic here because it's one of those recipes where, you know, it really does benefit from a crap load of garlic, and I don't think anyone's ever lost any friends from using too much garlic. So cut off the bottom sort of woody stem of all of these garlic cloves, and then what we'll do is crush it with the back of a knife, and that's going to make it release away from the skin, so then we can sort of roughly chop it all up. It's a good local garlic, and it seems to be of nice quality too, so it should be very nice in this recipe. Okay, so there we go. Got all of our garlic out of our skins, and I'm just gonna smash them down a bit. And then simply run the knife through. And there we go. So that's our head of garlic that we've just taken and roughly chopped up into some pieces there. So we'll put that in with our onions, and then that is all the chopping of vegetables that we need to do for this recipe. Next up, we're just going to attack this piece of meat. Now, it's a big piece of meat. I'm going to leave it relatively chunky. It should fall apart nicely in the pressure cooker, but we're just going to cut it into sort of some manageable chunks for searing off. There we go. Maybe we'll take it down a little bit smaller so there's less shredding to do. There we are. And then we're just going to season this with some salt. And then we'll get our pan preheating to sear it all off. I really think this is one of those recipes that everybody should sort of have in their repertoire, because quite frankly, it's quite impressive to a lot of people when you come out with something like this, and it seems like it's a lot more difficult than it really is. So if you get it under your belt, you've really got something to lean on should you need to. Now I'm just going to season these generously. I've got some fine sea salt here, and I'm just going to do it on the board because I'm going to clean it all after this. Seasoning from a height, and we want to make sure that these are generously seasoned because everything else in the sauce is sort of quite acidic and quite sweet, so don't shy away on the salt when it comes to the beef. Flipping these over, and we'll season the other side as well. I'm not going to be too pedantic about getting it all dried off perfectly. We just want to get a little bit of color on these before it goes into our ragu. So into the pan, I'm going in with about a good spoon. I've got duck fat here. I think it's quite good for searing off meat at higher heat. You could use whatever fat you sort of like, but I think this is going to add a nice richness. So I've got the pan, going to bring it up to a sort of a nice high heat and sear everything off. So let's start by laying these into the pan. So I've given these about just under a minute or so, and I don't want to cook them too much. I'll just flip them over now. So now after this, once everything's seared off, we're just going to put in our onions and garlic, turn the heat down to a medium, and sort of pull off any of that nice fond from the bottom of the pan. Flipping our meat, nice golden color. We're just looking to sear it on the outside. We're not sort of trying to cook it through. It's going to result in a nice pull apart meat that's not overcooked. And I really recommend giving your little cooktop a clean after this, because there is fat splattering everywhere. Not ideal, but necessary for the task. Okay, so turning our heat down onto low, the pan's very hot, removing our beef, and then getting our onions in there. Onions and garlic straight into the pan, and then stirring straight away. This is going to soak up all of that additional fat in there, and it's going to help start to cook down the onions. At this stage as well, we may as well get sort of our spices nice and infused into the mix. So in with our coarsely ground black pepper, and the smells coming off this are just exceptional already. Go in with our dried herbs, like we said, oregano and rosemary, bay leaves, and lastly, that premium, getting every last bit, smoked paprika, lacinata. Good stuff, highly recommend. And yeah, now this is really starting to take a smell of its own. So we'll just cook those off. As you can see, the paprika's coloring everything up wonderfully. You can see the absolute mess that fat's made, but oh well, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so now we'll get everything loaded into the pot of our pressure cooker and get it all onto the heat. So starting off, we've got our beef that we've seared off. We'll put that in there along with all of those accumulated juices. Now we'll come over with our onions and garlic that we've cooked down with the spices and all of that good stuff. Get that all in there, scraping every last good bit of it, because that is all flavor. Then we've got our chicken stock that can go in there. We've got our balsamic vinegar, going to add a lovely depth and sweetness. We've got our 400-gram tin of chopped tomatoes. Get that all in there. Then lastly, we've got that wonderful tomato paste, which, like I said, is going to add a lot of depth and a lot of flavor, which consequently, which actually, when I think about it, that's what a lot of ragus do tends to lack in, is they lack in depth of flavor. So that's what we're really aiming for. Now, just give this a generous good old mix together. And we need to remember we've added 3 bay leaves to this, because that'll be the only thing we need to take out of this. And we've already seasoned our beef. So we'll let this go, let it cook all down, and then we'll finally taste it when it's ready to go. Need to remember that our chicken stock is salted as well. So that is all there, done and ready. Here we go, we'll have a look inside there. It doesn't look too pretty, but I promise it's going to be delicious. Alright, so that just goes into the pressure cooker there. Let's turn that around for you to see. The basket goes in like so. Go on top with our lid, And we cook that on high for 50 minutes. Now's the perfect chance to clean up those dishes so you don't have to do them later. As you can see, got a little bit of mess there. I'll get that all cleaned up, get all that food cooked, and then we'll be on the home stretch. Okay, so it's been 50 minutes. I've just taken the ragu out of the pressure cooker, and I'll give you a wee look at it now. As you can see, it's just given it a little shred up, and it's completely softened, and really nice. I've added a little touch more salt. Got my pasta ready to go, fresh pasta, and boiling salted water there. So just gonna add that all together, and then we'll finish it off with some Parmesan cheese. Now that the water's come to the boil, just going in with my pasta there. It won't take too long to cook it all, probably just 2 or 3 minutes. As this is fresh pasta, quite lucky to have a store in my area which makes fresh pasta for sale, so that's quite handy. So I'll just cook that all down, and then we'll drain that off, mix it in with our ragu, and finish it with a little bit of butter just to sort of richen it up a little bit, and we'll be away laughing. Alright, so the pasta's just finished cooking. Gonna drain it off now, and I'm just gonna add this into the ragu. Now I'm not gonna serve this straight away. I'm gonna mix it all in, and then I'm gonna let it sit for about 5-10 minutes or so. What that's gonna do is that little bit of extra moisture that the pasta can absorb, it's gonna soak up some of that nice juices from the ragu. So I'm going to mix that all together. The pasta is still nice and al dente, and then after that it'll be time to eat up. Have a look at this. Absolutely beautiful. As you can see, that meat has just fallen apart, and it's all become one with the sauce. So about 50 grams of butter. Now just drop that in there, mix it all in, and that's just, you know, if you're on a diet you don't have to, but by golly, it does help. Alright, that was easy. Got that delicious ragu, fresh pasta, and don't forget this has come together all in about 1 hour. Just a generous couple of ladles there. Want to get the ratio, good bit of pasta, good bit of the ragu. Then to finish it off, some nice grated parmesan over top. And that right there is my dinner. Absolutely delicious, as you can see there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a simple one, nothing too crazy, but I hope that you'll give it a go, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy it too. I'll catch you later. Peace out.